Cheers guys, and welcome to Uncle Scott's Pancast. In the old Pancast today, we are going to talk about carbon steel. I got some updates on this OXO and this Merton and Stork. Talk about these carbon steel pans. We're going to talk about Paella Pans. We've got some viewer mail and more. Let's jump in and get started. First thing I want to bring up today is that it's the 4th of July holiday weekend, and Debouille has a big sale, 20% off site-wide. Big fans of Debouille around here, and usually that 20% off, that's something we usually only see at Black Friday around Thanksgiving. If you are in the market or have been thinking about a Debouille carbon steel skillet, now is the time to jump on one. I got a link below, and use that link and code July4 to check out, 20% off site-wide. There are a couple of things that are not included, but most everything site-wide. Definitely a good time to jump on a Debouille if you're in the mood for one. Also, ThermoWorks. Get all the commerce out of the way here at the top. ThermoWorks, those Thermopin ones, they are also running a big holiday sale on the red, white, and blue models. I'll also have a link to that. 30% off on those, so that's a good deal too if you're in the market for a ThermoWorks Thermopin. That's what I always use in the videos, and I really do like mine. Let's first talk about these carbon steel skillets, the Merton and Stork and the OXO. These are carbon steel, and you guys probably heard me start talking about these a couple of pancasts ago. I found out about these pans after reading that Food and Wine article, and in that Food and Wine article they had the OXO listed, I think, is their #1 pan. The Merton and Stork didn't make the list. I think they're the exact same pan from the same company, from the same manufacturer in China. And they mentioned in their article that they were frying eggs without fat, without butter or fat. So that seemed kind of strange to me. So I got these pans out the other day and I fried some eggs. So let's take a look at that. Got the pan preheated here and put the egg in, no fat, no butter. And it's almost coming up. And in the other pan, I could almost peel this egg up almost like peeling off a sticker. So they weren't non-stick, they weren't sliding like hockey pucks like we've come to expect with carbon steel skillets and sliding eggs around here. But they were kind of, sort of, in an odd way, somewhat non-stick, but it seems odd to me. And I still haven't figured out these pans yet. I wrote OXO, and they wrote back and said that there's no coating on there. It's just a high heat treatment, which to me sounds like a blued pan. And I'm just not used to being able to get any type of non-stick results in a carbon steel skillet, especially with eggs without any fat. Now, I did try some eggs with some butter, and those slid. Now, what I find odd about these pans, or interesting or somewhat befuddling at the moment, is that the surfaces stay uniform and perfect. And if you look at the surfaces of these two carbon steel skillets, they are different from especially the French carbon steel skillets that we talk about so much around here. The Debouilles, the Mapfers, even a Volrath, which is a North American pan. But what I'm used to with carbon steel seasoning, this is a relatively new Debouille. And you see that it's got silvery spots, it's blotchy, it's got some dark, but it is not uniform. It is very ratty, if you will, at the moment. And I expect that to darken in and eventually look like this pan. This is what I've come to expect from a well-seasoned carbon steel skillet. These pans, they don't change, and the seasoning looks perfect even after cooking in them. When I cook in my regular carbon steels, the seasoning changes every time I cook. And if, heaven forbid, I do stick an egg and have to get that egg out of the pan, I can always see a spot where that stuck egg was on the pan. And I usually have to touch up the seasoning or what have you. These pans, when I stuck the eggs, I just washed them out and I can't tell any change whatsoever with the seasoning. So that befuddles me. I don't know if these are the same as the French carbon steels, and I'm trying to do a little bit more digging and find out. My fear is that there's some sort of coating on there, but I have absolutely no proof of that, and they say there's no coating on there. So with the OXO and the Merton and Stork, I'm still checking on those. I don't know what's up, but it seems like something's up. I don't know if it's anything bad or not, but I am still doing a little checking on those, and I'll let you know what I find out. Let's talk paella and paella pans. If you've been around the channel for a while, you know I started talking about paella last summer, and did a couple of videos. I am by no means a paella expert. As a matter of fact, I am trying to learn, and I put the call out there. I asked people for their paella tips, and one good thing about YouTube, the video was seen over in Spain, and people in Spain were sending me all kinds of paella tips. And one guy typed up maybe a 6-page PDF of paella advice. One guy said he wanted his name to remain, didn't want me to use his name because there's kind of a secret paella society, and he didn't want any to be blamed for any of their secrets to get out. Now, I've committed to doing another paella video, so that is in the works. I said I'd do it. I will do it eventually, even if I'm a year behind. But we were cooking paella last fall, and the snow started to fly, and things just kind of got off track. Now, we started last year with this Paella pan. This is my first one. Great pan. What I found about that pan is that it works really well on a stovetop, on a big stove burner. It gets a little bit crowded if you want to make paella for more than 3 or 4 people. And I wanted to get a bigger paella pan. I wanted to do some out on my grills. I bought this Lodge 15-incher, and it works really well. It won't fit on my Kamado Joe. It fits on the Weber charcoal. It also fits on my Weber gas grill. But I've also noted that it's a little bit limiting trying to cook in a pan on a gas grill. It doesn't work as well as I want it to. And believe it or not, I was cooking paella this past Sunday, and the 15-inch pan was getting a little bit crowded. So what I have done is get this guy. Oh, it's the Garcima with the paella pan burner, gas burner. It's got a stand. It's supposed to have a 20-inch carbon steel paella pan. So let's open this guy up. See if we can take a first look at a 20-inch carbon steel paella pan. Here's the burner, and I also ordered an adapter hose to hook it up to my propane tanks. So now, oh my! Holy cow, that is a big paella pan. So it's starting to get a little more official around here. Now, I'm pretty sure my wife never watches any of my videos, so I'm going to try and slip this in somewhere so she doesn't know I bought it. I don't know, it's pretty big though. We'll see how that goes. Also, because this is a carbon steel, and the Lodge pan was a carbon steel, and the Paella was a carbon steel, I also wanted to try a stainless steel paella pan. Let's see what we got here. Also a Garcima. Same size, but this one is stainless steel. In terms of cost, this one was well over $100, and this 20-inch paella by itself, I think, it's less than 50. So look for more paella content coming up soon. Okay, let's jump into a little viewer mail. Talking about carbon steel seasoning. Samuel Chambliss 8061 asks, should you season with the same oil you cook with? And also asks about extra virgin olive oil for seasoning. First, I would not use that extra virgin olive oil. The smoking point is way too low, and I don't think it's going to work that well for seasoning. And should you use the same oil to season with that you cook with, You don't have to, definitely not. As a matter of fact, once you get that pan seasoned, you can cook with a wide variety of oils, wide variety of foods. You don't really have to worry about the type of oil that went into the seasoning once that seasoning is kind of locked on there. I wouldn't worry too much about that. Back on that extra virgin olive oil, if you're new in asking these type questions, and I have mentioned this before, but I would stay within the herd. I would start out with sunflower, grapeseed, canola, vegetable, or maybe even peanut. Use one of those 5 oils, stay within the herd. And once you've had your pan for 3 months or so, and you can slide an egg and you've seasoned several times and you kind of are up to speed and know what you're doing, then if you want to try something more exotic, whether in olive oil, coconut, what have you, ghee, bacon fat, then do it, but you'll know what you're doing. And if something doesn't go right, you can just kind of scrub out the pan and reseason it and start over. But I would not do that early on, only when you're up and running and know what you're doing. Let's see, Devin7877 wrote in about that video I had about how to nuke and reseason a carbon steel skillet if you have a lot of problems. He says he just about burned his house down with that seasoning method. And I think what he's referring to is I ran a pan through my oven on the cleaning cycle and it kind of just absolutely nukes it. I really, and I've mentioned this in other videos, I really do not recommend anyone doing that. Except for in a few very narrow circumstances. Only if it's the absolute last resort and the pan is just beyond help and you're about to throw it away, then maybe try it. And B, make sure your oven, make sure you can do it safely in your oven, make sure it has the proper cleaning cycle, and it's going to put a lot of smoke out, it's going to put some odors in the house, make sure you get the windows open. And these ovens on cleaning cycles can get up 700-800 degrees. That is really, really, really hot. Just make sure you don't damage anything. I think you should take your grate out of your oven before you do it. But don't burn your house down for a $50 carbon steel skillet. That one's tough to explain to the old wife. Let's see, Joaquin Karstens 9769 wrote in. And he's talking about in one of the videos I showed, I think with this pan here. But in the video, it was a newer pan. He says in the center of the pan, he doesn't see any seasoning at all. And he's wondering why that is and why is that pan not smooth. I think I showed the example of this earlier. Carbon steel, when it's new, when the seasoning is coming in, it's going to look like HE double hockey sticks a lot of the time. It's going to be blotchy, shiny, silvery in some places. Some places it's going to look bare. But if you just keep cooking in them and do some maintenance, touch-up seasoning from time to time, they will darken in and that seasoning will even out. But early on, it's going to take a while and they're going to look blotchy. It doesn't matter though, they still cook very, very nicely even when the seasoning isn't perfect. Let's see, Michael Joseph 2303 wrote in talking about the bottoms of pans. So we're talking about bottoms here. And he says concave bottoms suck. As we've shown in a lot of videos, a lot of carbon steel skillets will have a slight upward bow in the bottoms of the skillets. And what this does is help to mitigate warping issues when the pan heats up. If there's any deformation, that deformation will go upwards rather than downwards. Upwards, it's not perfect, but it's better than downwards because if you go down, it turns the pan into a spinner. And it won't sit flat on a stove. The concave is not perfect, but it's better than the pan being a spinner. He says the center of this pan stays dry while oil sits around the edge of the pan. A lot of times too, you will notice a steel pan will actually change shape. You can actually see it happen. If you've got oil in the pan and you're heating it up, if you get that dome in the middle, it's kind of rising up, it will produce that donut effect. And it's kind of interesting that it happens in real time. A lot of times though, if you just keep cooking and keep heating that pan, give it another couple of minutes, let that heat have enough time to spread out, that will actually sometimes go away, believe it or not. So the Walrus pan that I am reviewing, which apparently I left upstairs, it has that upward bow and it actually went down and turned into a spinner for a while. But after 2 or 3 more minutes, that spin went away. So these things, it's very interesting. One of the reasons I like carbon steel is it changes every time I use it, but they will change shape as you cook. Isn't that crazy? A pan changing shape as you cook, and then it changes as it cools back down. The 4th of July weekend, big holiday weekend. The holiday doesn't fall on the weekend itself, so this is going to be a 3 or 4 day weekend, maybe 5, depending on how you configure your vacation days. I'm going to do some ribs one day, definitely some paella one day. What are you guys cooking? Are you going to do a big cookout for the 4th? Have a few beers, smoke a few cigars, who knows. If anybody's interested, what I'm pouring today is just a good old PBR. And my PBR story is I used to live in Montana, and I know one guy that works at a brewery and another guy that owns a microbrewery, and they told me that during the day there, the staff will drink PBR while they're making the other microbreweries for the brew pub. So I thought that was always kind of interesting. So a lot of brewers, a lot of microbrewers out there actually drink PBR during the day. Pretty tasty. Always liked a good PBR, and it's getting to the point here in Utah. We're entering the dry summer phase here. It's getting really hot, really dry outside. I like a good IPA and the heavier beers. It's just too hot outside in the summer though to drink them here. So I like a little bit lighter beer in the summer. Regardless, cheers anyway. Happy 4th of July to everyone. And we'll see. You want to come over and say hey?
Sure.
Don't step on anything. Come around. Little guy wants to say hi. Tell everybody happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th of July, poo heads.
Poo is very funny when you're 5.
Gotcha.
And possibly a little older. Cheers, guys. Have a happy 4th of July, and we'll see you again next time on Uncle Scott's Pancast.